Hi, I'm Kevin. Welcome to Wednesday's Words of Worship. I don't know about you, but I love to eat some fresh popcorn at a movie theater, or even some kettle corn right out of the microwave. But my all-time favorite is Johnson's famous popcorn from Ocean City, New Jersey Boardwalk. I can smell that caramel popcorn right now. Now, I have a friend who loves popcorn so much he'll eat it as a meal when it's too late to have a large evening meal. Now, besides the great taste of popcorn, the most intriguing part of popcorn is the science behind how it pops. Popcorn is the only grain in the corn family that pops open when exposed to temperatures above 400 degrees Fahrenheit. The tough outer shell surrounding a popcorn kernel is the key to what makes it pop. See, the kernel contains a little bit of moisture trapped in there, and when the popcorn kernel is heated, the trapped water turns into steam, building up pressure. And the outer hull of the popcorn is much stronger than that of all the other corn kernels, and it's able to retain this pressurized steam up to 135 pounds per square inch. And when that pressure becomes more than 135 pounds, the hull ruptures, releasing the steam, and the popped kernel becomes 40 to 50 times larger than its original size. That small bit of moisture inside the corn is able to completely change it. It changes the appearance and the texture. Now, if we allow Jesus into our lives, he can completely change us too. When we bring Jesus into our lives, we bring him our warped way of thinking, our sinful mind, our hearts that are filled with all sorts of evil. But we can be changed by the presence and power of God. God's presence in our lives changes our appearance, or how we appear to others. Let's compare for a minute. How would you describe a kernel of popcorn? Maybe yellow in color, it's tiny, maybe teardrop shaped. Well, how would you describe a popped kernel? Well, it's white, it's oddly shaped, and like we said, it's 40 to 50 times larger than the kernel itself. Again, this is a small bit of water inside the kernel that causes it to explode and completely change its appearance. So how does the presence of God in our lives change our appearance? Let's look at Paul's letter to the Philippian Christians. Philippians 2:12 through 15 says this: Dear friends, you always followed my instructions when I was with you. And now that I am away, it's even more important. Work hard to show the results of your salvation, obeying God with deep reverence and fear. For God is working in you, giving you the desire and the power to do what pleases him. Do everything without complaining and arguing, so that no one can criticize you. Live clean, innocent lives as children of God, shining like bright lights in the world full of crooked and perverse people. Now, Paul says that God is working in you to create a desire to please him and to help empower us to do what pleases him. And while our individual lives are to reflect these things, Paul's letter is addressed to the entire church. So in addition to our lives being pleasing to God, our church, our relationships within our church and with each other are to be pleasing to him as well. You know, we've all come in contact with someone who proclaims Christ in church on Sunday, but acts like a real you-know-what during the rest of the week. Now, Paul is saying that if we as a church and our members, if we do nothing but argue and complain and gossip, people will see that. And we give them a false impression of Christ and the good news of his gospel. If a church is always complaining and arguing, then it lacks the unifying power of Jesus Christ. So the example of how our appearance is changed by God for us is to let the world see Christ in us, to look more Christ-like. Our life should be characterized by moral purity, patience, and peacefulness, so that we will shine brightly in a dark, depraved world. The parallel here, that is like the moisture inside of the popcorn, God is at work inside of us. Remember that God is at work in us so that he can work through us. So go get yourself some popcorn and think about how the tiny bit of moisture inside changes it and how the presence of God in your life can change you. Let God's presence change you this week and draw near to him through prayer and your worship. Hey, thanks for listening. I'm Kevin, and I hope to see you again. next week.